When was the last time that you were really puzzled by something? When's the last time you had a mystery that you just couldn't solve in your mind? For me, I think of just a few weeks ago, I lost my glasses. I wear contacts during the day, but then at night, if I'm reading or watching TV, I'll take my contacts out and wear glasses. And so because of that, there's only two places where I leave my glasses. They're either on the nightstand right before I go to sleep, or they're on the counter next to where I put my contact lenses in the morning. But a couple weeks ago, my glasses were in neither of those places when I needed them. And so began a mystery for me. I was very puzzled about where they could be. And if you're anything like me in those moments, like you can't let the mystery go on. Like once it gets in your mind, you've got to figure out what's going on in this situation before you move on to anything else. And so that happened for several nights in a row, about a week in a row. I kept going through every scenario possible. Where could I have possibly left these? And none of them were helping. And then eventually I went down in the basement and I saw them sitting on a chair. And in that moment realized, oh yeah, I remember I was down in the basement and was doing something down there and took my glasses off for just a moment, set them on the chair and totally forgot that they were there. That was my most recent time of being puzzled. What about you? Today we're going to look at someone who had a great mystery and she was very puzzled. We're going to look at Mary Magdalene. She was one of the most famous characters in the New Testament. She's mentioned 12 times throughout the Gospels. Very early on in Jesus' ministry, he encounters Mary Magdalene and he heals her. And she, like any of us would do, begins to follow this teacher that had done this miraculous thing for her. All of us would do the same thing. So she ends up following Jesus for years during his ministry. And she is present at all of the miraculous different things that we read about Jesus. And as we have entered into Holy Week this week, and we think about the crucifixion, there's parts of the Gospels that talk about her being there at the crucifixion when Jesus is hanging on the cross, and that he was speaking to her and to some of the others that were there. And so Jesus is crucified on Friday. He's put into a tomb. And because Sabbath was the next day, Sabbath actually starts in the evening on Friday when 3 stars are visible in the sky. And so they had to kind of prepare Jesus quickly and get him into the tomb quickly before sundown, before there was 3 stars in the sky, because at that moment Sabbath started and they could no longer do any work. And so you've got Friday evening, all day Saturday, then it's dark Saturday night. So first thing Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene heads for the tomb. But she wasn't heading there looking for an empty tomb. She was heading there to finish the preparations on Jesus's body. It says this in John chapter 20, verse 1. Early on the first day of the week, the first day after Sabbath, while it was still dark, so Mary probably couldn't sleep. And if you think about the weekend that she had just had, you and I would probably not be sleeping either. She couldn't sleep, so she gets up while it's still dark. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." She shows up at the tomb and the stone is rolled away, and all of a sudden she has a mystery. She's puzzled. She doesn't know what has happened to Jesus. And so the other disciples, they come running to the tomb to check it out. And later in verse 11, it says this: "Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying," which makes sense. You can see the humanity in this. Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they've put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you're looking for? Which again is kind of that humorous side of Jesus. It's like, wow, here he is asking her who she's looking for. Thinking he was the gardener, she said, so she thought he was the gardener there where the tomb, it says the tomb was inside this garden. And so she says, sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've put him and I will get him. Like, I understand if you're taking care of this garden and you felt like you needed to move him out of the tomb or whatever, just tell me where you've placed him. I'll go get him and we can move him to some other place. And then Jesus said to her, verse 16, Mary. He just said her name, Mary. She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, Rabboni, which means teacher. Her eyes were opened and she saw her Savior. Do not hold on to me, Jesus said, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. I love that imagery. Mary just throws her arms around Jesus and is hugging him with joy. Can you imagine what she felt in that moment? And Jesus says, hey, don't hold on to me because the story's not completed yet. He says, I've not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I'm ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Verse 18, Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news. I have seen the Lord. And she told them that he had said these things to her. Another beautiful picture of what Easter means to us. That in the middle of our mysteries, in the middle of being puzzled, we can experience the resurrection life of Jesus. And we can wrap our arms around him, not physically like Mary did, but in our hearts and in our minds. I hope this week that you continue to experience that joy as you think about what was suffered for you on his behalf, and you think about the amazing, amazing event of the resurrection. Make it a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.